Welcome to the third part of Module 12. We will discuss in this part the brain ventricles and the different layers of the meninges. As the brain and the spinal cord are delicate organs, they must be provided with cushion to avoid direct contact with the bones of the skull and the vertebrae. This is the function of the cerebrospinal fluid that is being secreted by the choroid plexus of the brain ventricles. There are four brain ventricles. There are two lateral ventricles, the right and the left, which can be found surrounded by the respective cerebral hemisphere, and here are the lateral ventricles. Please note that we cannot determine which is the first and the second ventricles, thus anatomists often refer to them collectively as lateral ventricles. The third ventricle is surrounded by the diencephalon, while the fourth ventricle is located between the medulla and the cerebellum. Again, these ventricles have the choroid plexuses that secrete cerebrospinal fluid both for the brain and for the spinal cord. It is also important to identify the openings that allow the communication among brain ventricles. The lateral ventricles are connected to the third ventricle via the interventricular foramina or the foramen of Monro. The third and fourth ventricles are connected by the cerebral aqueduct or the aqueduct of Sylvius. The fourth ventricle is continuous with the subarachnoid space via the cisterna magna through the median aperture or the foramen of Magendie. Also, the fourth ventricle exits at the subarachnoid space via the cistern of the great cerebral vein through the right and left lateral apertures or the foramina of Luschka. Next, we move to the meninges. Meninges are connective tissue coverings of the brain and the spinal cord. They include, from deep to superficial, the pia mater, the arachnoid, and the dura mater. The pia mater is the deepest of the meninges and is a delicate membrane that invests in the brain and the spinal cord. The arachnoid is the middle layer, which is web-like in appearance as shown here. The pia mater and the arachnoid are collectively referred to as the leptomeninx. The dura mater or the pachymeninx is a tough outer covering of the brain and the spinal cord. Remember, it forms the falx cerebri between the two cerebral hemispheres and the tentorium cerebelli between the cerebrum and the cerebellum. Please note that in the brain, there are two layers of dura mater as shown here. However, in the spinal cord, there is only one layer present. In addition, it is also important to know the spaces present. The epidural space is the space between the dura mater and the wall of the vertebral canal, while the subarachnoid space is the space between the arachnoid and the pia mater where the cerebrospinal fluid circulates. And that ends our short discussion on the brain parts like the brain ventricles and the different brain meninges. Please proceed to the next part, which will discuss the different cranial nerves present in the brain.